on your side. First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
And glad to have Tania back with us here for Weather Extra. You said 11 years, but trust me, it seems like yesterday.
You remember it that well.
Oh, wow. I mean, what a day. And we're going to talk a lot more about that event, but a big difference today. You know, we had all the ice and snow last week. We had some freezing fog to kick the day off. Let's go ahead and add that to the checklist, right, for the month of January.
Everything. Now we got 70-degree temperatures on the way. Crazy, right?
Yeah, I love Alabama weather, and here we go. Next big thing. We're going to have a warm-up on the way. But hey, tonight, I still think you need to grab that jacket. You're heading out. Notice we're cooling off into the 40s, around Aliceville 49. You can see Coleman and Aniana right now cooling off into the 40s. So it's January. It's going to be chilly out there tonight. But the good thing is most of us, we will stay above that critical freezing mark. As you can see, we're going to have lows in the 30s. So you won't need to do too many adjustments on the thermostat for the overnight. And also notice to the north and east, right in this area, some of our cooler spots, some outlying areas. You get into places like Gallant and areas to the north towards Reese City, maybe a light freeze early in the day. But again, most of us will stay above freezing tomorrow morning. But it will be foggy again. But the greatest chance for that fog development is actually going to be more towards the west and in the central areas, as you can see early in the day. Won't last long, but for a few hours, if you're hitting the road early tomorrow morning, give yourself some extra drive time again. This will burn off rather quickly. We'll have some sunshine, some clouds, and then we stay dry during the day, but one of the next big rain chances coming up is going to be happening late Thursday night and into Friday. Just show you some updated timing on this. Actually, most of this looks to come in during the early morning hours Friday, and you can see these are general start times, kind of a window there from midnight to 3 a.m. across far western areas, 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. places like Aniana, Gardendale, Birmingham, back in towards Center Point and Pinson, also Shelby County included in that as well. You can see though by 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning, pushing through Leeds, Moody, Trussville, Argo, and over towards Gadsden there during the remainder of the morning. And we'll get this out of here just in time for the weekend. So right now we have that fog tonight, that rain Friday morning, dry weather coming up for our weekend with those temperatures. Who's that guy? Yeah, that was quite a while ago, and today, of course, marks the 11 years since Snowmageddon. It caused a major It was a disaster. It's the only way to put it around the area. Drastic changes in where the snow set up brought a historic situation, not just across central Alabama, but the entire state and other parts of the southeast. We heard about all the stories in the Atlanta area. Snowfall totals range from just a trace up to 3 inches across central Alabama, with ice accumulations of up to 1/4 of an inch, leaving many people stranded at work or school. And that day, we were forecasting a winter storm across South Alabama. And interestingly, you hear us talk about a lot of the models. The GFS model, one of the global models, it was suggesting a picture something like this. This is what the radar actually looked like that day. And when you take a look at this, you can see that is very similar to what we saw last week, right, with that winter storm that was down in South Alabama. Notice the temperatures on that day: 22 degrees Tuscaloosa, 19 at Birmingham, 19 in Aniana. This was from the old Viper system, which now is our First Alert AccuTrack system. And taking a look at the one of our Sky Vision cameras from that day, that's what 280 looked like. Of course, every road turned into a skating rink, so folks had to abandon their vehicles out there, and it was in the teens, dangerously cold. And this is where the snow ended up setting up. And notice we were on the northern edge, and our thought process was it would be too dry for some of that snow to reach the surface. Well, actually what happened, unlike last week when the dry air won out, the moisture won out this go around, and it just took a little bit to cause some major issues. You can see we were right there on that northern edge in the Shelby and Jefferson County, but that's what the radar looked like, and we ended up with snow and a quick accumulation that caused those roads to really ice up across the area. But we will never forget Snowmageddon. Certainly a lesson learned when it comes to winter weather forecasting, and I'm always very particular. We see those systems to the south. We need to stay alert here locally. But we've been hearing a lot of your stories on Facebook throughout the day. Of course, a big turnaround in the weather this season, Tania, as we're now talking about some milder conditions.
Oh yeah, and also happening today, check out these images. These were shared by our viewers of the dense, freezing fog across central Alabama early this morning. This was even some freezing fog reported, not just fog, but freezing fog, and that can make for some slippery road conditions. But before we talk more about freezing fog, meteorologist Megan Thomas joins us now with the Weather Extra look on why the fog this morning was so dense.
So this morning we had a dense fog advisory and a freezing fog advisory across portions of central Alabama. This is my photo from atop Red Mountain around 3 a.m. looking back towards the city. I promise Birmingham is down there. We just had a very thick layer of fog. Well, how does that happen? Well, last night as the wind was calm, the sky was clear, we had the daytime heating from yesterday. That air, warm air, will always rise. It's less dense than cold air. So as it rises, the air can condense. But here's the thing here, that thin layer of moisture is underneath. It's trapped underneath that dry air. Again, that warm air wants to rise, the dry air wants to sink, but it's being trapped. So that rising air from the surface passes quickly through that humid layer and it begins to cool. That muggy layer does not absorb much heat and the air near the surface is cooling quickly. So then you get fog development. As that moisture rises and that air is condensing, water turns into vapor. And that is what happened this morning. That fog developed right at the surface. Now there are all types of different kind of fog, but we were focusing on radiation fog this morning. You get steam fog back along when cool air runs over some warmer water. That didn't happen here in town today, but it does happen across the state. What a cool image from this morning looking back over Red Mountain. Hope you got into work safe. And of course, as the sun came up, the air mixed out. This fog was completely gone by about midday.
What a view there over the city of Birmingham earlier today. And this is one of those photos from early this morning when we not only had the fog, but the freezing fog advisories that were in effect across our area. This was from Tyler Young earlier today. And typically you can tell when we have a morning where we have fog that freezes on contact, it just looks like a very, very heavy frost. But it can collect enough to where you have a thin glaze of ice, which can develop on surfaces. And as Megan explained, on nights where you have that low level moisture, you have the higher dew points and the temperature cools to the dew point, relative humidity goes up. They're all related. So when that relative humidity goes to 100%, you have air that's saturated, you'll start to see that fog development out there. And especially when you have, again, after we had all that rain here recently and tonight, there's a chance again we're going to have the cooler temperatures and that fog developing. But when the surface temperature is right at 32 degrees, the fog can freeze. And last night around 9 o'clock, we were already having freezing fog reports there around Coleman. But it can be enough to collect, as I mentioned, on bridges, especially when you have that continuous steam fog developing around bridges and overpasses. It can cause some slippery travel. So that's not a big issue for us tonight because the temperatures, for the most part, will stay above freezing. But in 30 seconds, we're going to be talking about what you could expect as you head out the door for the rest of your, not only tomorrow, but the rest of your January. And we talk about the science behind potholes and how the weather can be a main cause. We'll be right back.
Well, it's that time of the year where you're driving on the roads and all of a sudden there's a big pothole there and you got to avoid it. Well, did you know that not only just us driving over the same spots causes wear and tear, but a lot of it has to come down to the weather, and a lot of the times it happens during the winter months. So let's explain. We got different layers, of course, of the ground. You got wear and tear of vehicles driving over those spots, and sometimes you get cracks forming through the road surface. Well, then you introduce moisture, whether it's rainfall or even snow, which of course we've seen both types over the past month, and that water seeps through those cracks, and then that water pools underneath the road surface. So that's pretty much step 2 right there. Then you got the cold temperatures. Of course, we've seen that. We've had single digits, teens. It's been extremely cold. And just like when we talk about dripping your faucets to avoid your pipes from freezing, what happens with that is the water expands, turns into ice, and that creates cracks and issues with your pipes. The same concept when it comes to the roads. That water freezes and expands, and that weakness in the roadway is forced upward. So you're having even more issues out on the road surface. And then you have the thaw, and that's sort of what we're dealing with now. Temperatures were near freezing this morning, but we're looking at some warmer temperatures going into the next several days. So what happens is the ice melts, and then you start seeing a gap forming underneath the road surface. So you have a lot of weakness there, and of course you get a lot of issues on the roadways with people driving over those same spots, and the constant traffic will break down the road surface, creating those potholes, and then of course causing issues with your car and your tires. So I guess you could say it's technically pothole season around here. Just be safe. Obviously, if you see something like that, try to avoid it if you can, but that's a little bit of the science behind how potholes form.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I try to avoid those potholes by all means necessary. And one thing that we can't avoid are the warmer temperatures that we're about to expect. And one of the reasons that we're getting a lot warmer is just because we're starting to see possibly an early spring. We have to wait to find out. Let me just show you how far we are away till Groundhog Day. February 2nd, that's 5 days away, 17 until Valentine's Day. February the 14th and President's Day is also in February, 20 days away until February 17th. So a lot to look forward to this month. And if you're looking forward to some warmer conditions, well, your wish has been granted. We'll see low 60s around Saturday, lots of sunshine, dry for your Saturday if you have any plans, and also dry Sunday, mostly sunny skies with temperatures nearing 70 degrees. We could see temperatures in the low 70s by early next week, so get ready for some warmer than average conditions. But heading out the door tomorrow, please make sure you still have that heavier coat. It will be chilly to get you started. 7 a.m. still in the low 40s. We'll see some increasing cloud coverage as we approach your Wednesday night, but temperatures tomorrow still won't be too bad. We'll actually see afternoon highs for your Wednesday in the 60s. So we're starting to see that warmer weather and that warmer weather pattern across central Alabama, but we're also looking a little bit more unsettled later into the week. We'll have a full look at that 7-day forecast right here in just a bit. But I want to take you across the country now to Massachusetts, where strong winds knocked out power today to thousands of customers. Check out this scene from Boston, where trees were also knocked over. At least 60 flights were delayed and 9 canceled at Logan Airport, according to the website FlightAware.
And in California, a major freeway that was closed because of the fires was closed again on Monday because of snow. We had snow here last week. Well, this week it's out west. This is what it looked like on the 5 freeway Sunday night. California Highway Patrol was escorting southbound traffic as the snow fell. And the culverts dropped sand on the ground so vehicles would have a better traction, of course, and the freeway was able to open by the end of the day on Monday. Tania?
Well, Wes, we don't want our viewers to go anywhere because we're going to continue to talk about the timing of the rain on Thursday. And we're also going to talk about a popular myth and the science behind your favorite hot drink. Is it your favorite? We'll be right back to find out.
Back into First Alert Weather Extra, and let's take a look at the next 24 hours. We'll walk you through this data. You'll see the overnight lows tonight heading down into the mid-30s. Birmingham showing a low right around 36, Tuscaloosa 37. Places like Pell City and to the north here, you get over Straight Mountain and work north there towards Gadsden. Could be close to freezing early in the day, but most of the fog development that we're expecting is going to be along and west of Interstate 65. That's where the data really favors that tomorrow. But again, it will be foggy in some locations. Plan for that. Some extra drive time a few hours early tomorrow morning. After that, we'll break into a day with some maybe some filtered sunshine. You can see maybe some thin clouds out there during the day. Highs still reach the 60s during the afternoon, so we got a nice warm up coming up for the next 24 hours tomorrow. And then tomorrow evening, you can see not as chilly, but temperatures by 6 o'clock still into the 50s. And I'm happy to report the average highs, well, we've bottomed out. Now we're going to start to see those values climb here over the next several weeks. But we're going to be watching off to the west here. This is a system that's going to bring our next best chance for rain coming up Thursday night and a Friday morning. Right now, the greatest instability looks to be happening well back to the south and west of us. Notice the Storm Prediction Center has now highlighted parts of Louisiana in that level 2 out of 5 slight risk for severe weather coming up now on Thursday. By the time this reaches us, it's overnight. It's a weaker system, but as this moves in, it's going to be a line of storms, and you can see our models are picking up on that. Moves in after midnight and into the early morning hours on Friday. Should be a weaker system as it moves in. We'll have to watch this right around midnight as this first starts to move in to our far northwest counties. Could have some gusty winds, maybe a couple of embedded storms, but that should be about it. It will continue to kind of weaken as it moves on through, but I think everybody will see a little rain off of this through early Friday. Rest of the day on Friday, notice how it slows down into the morning. I still think by the afternoon this is out of here, so we will be talking about some improvements there by the weekend. So this has trended a lot earlier, so that's a good thing as we're going to be seeing this move out for Saturday and Sunday. Warmer days on the way. How about next week? Look at this. I mean, I know we're talking about 60s tomorrow. There's a chance by the 3rd, 4th, 5th February, we're going to have readings in the mid-70s out there. So we got some warmer weather coming up next week and not a lot of rain. As you can see there, to start next week, we get to enjoy those 70-degree afternoons. So tell you what, nice little break coming up there early next week, Tania, and it looks like as we get into the end of the week, we'll see that heaviest rain likely set up in that transition zone where we go from warmer to colder in states north of us. That's what we got to watch as far as rain coming back in the next 10 to 14 days.
Yes, and it could be a more steady thing and more rainfall accumulation that could lead to flooding.
And February is a big month when often we see river flooding across Alabama. Have to watch out for that.
There you go. So that's one thing that we're paying attention to beyond the 7-day. And here's a full look at what we're tracking as far as temperatures first. This is February 5th through the 11th. And as you look across the U.S., notice what areas are highlighted in that orange, yellow color across the south, really. And that includes us right here in the southeast across central Alabama, above average temperatures. So I keep saying it. If you've been wanting warmer weather, it is on the way. Wes already gave you a snippet and a hint that we could be in the mid-70s later into the month of February. But here we are looking at February 5th through February 11th as our precipitation outlook. And much of the U.S. could be dealing with above average rainfall. And that includes us right here across central Alabama. So we definitely need to keep our eye out on potential flooding, river flooding concerns for this month, since this is that typical month and, you know, weather happens in patterns. So we pay attention to those patterns as well. Here we are looking at beyond the 7-day, just a quick glimpse of our next rain chances as we look from February 7th through February the 11th. This is showing North Alabama getting some rainfall. February the 7th, that's next Friday, I believe, right around midnight. And then there's some rain chances reoccurring, a little bit of wet weather around February the 8th. That's Saturday. It's not a whole lot. You probably can't really see it on your TV screen at home. But another round of some heavier rainfall could be possible around February 10 and into February the 11th. So we're paying very close attention, like I mentioned, to those next chances for rain. Make sure you're staying up to date with us right here on Weather Extra, as we always take you beyond the 7-day. But even though temperatures are about to warm up over the coming days, we all know at one point we were drinking hot chocolate or coffee to stay warm during those colder temperatures. But Susan Elizabeth Littlefield joins us now with a deep dive on if hot drinks can actually make us warmer.
When it comes to wintering winter, we all have our tricks.
I usually just go indoors and I just get in a blanket.
Sauna. Yeah.
What do you do to warm up?
Head south.
As for local remedies, there's the Warm Como Conservatory and the the go-to internal relief.
Chai, probably just coffee.
Hot tea.
For Zach Johnson, a St. Paul dad, the preference is clear.
My daughter has discovered hot chocolate, and when your 2-year-old discovers hot chocolate, you start to fall in love with hot chocolate again.
Fun, but is it functional?
Do you think that warm liquids actually warm us up?
I suspect in some way they do. I don't know exactly how, but yeah, I would think so.
Do you think it could perhaps raise your body temperature?
It'd have to be really warm. I don't think it probably raises your body temperature, but does it?
What do you do to warm up when you're outside?
Hot water.
Dr. Nathan Morris is coming in hot with the answer. When indoors, Dr. Morris works at the University of Colorado. He helped run an intricate study testing how body temperatures respond to hot liquids.
Do warm liquids actually warm our bodies up?
So the answer is it'll depend on the situation you're in, but most of the time, no, they won't.
Dr. Morris says if you are outdoors, water-based drinks or soups will stop the symptoms of cold, but not raise your actual body temperature.
So you drink hot water, your shivering reduces, your metabolic rate reduces, but your core temperature isn't affected.
So our core temperature rarely changes.
Rarely changes.
But he says the warm liquids may bump up your temp a little if you drink them before you go outside and put your body into stress mode. Still, an outdoor coffee, he says, has its perks.
It makes you feel more comfortable, and it stops you from shivering, which is going to make you feel a lot better.
That counts for something.
That counts for a lot.
So at the least, hot drinks warm souls.
Oh, I love that. Well, we'll be right back with your final check of your weather. You're watching First Low Weather Extra. See you right here after the break.